Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to tell you, the more I think about Britt Westmore's situation, the more convinced I become that we've all been looking at the wrong mystery. For years, Britt has lived under the shadow of Huntington's disease. And like many viewers, I simply accepted that heartbreaking diagnosis as part of her story. But now, well, things are starting to look very different. After the latest developments involving Lucas Jones and the shocking information connected to Britt's medical records, I can't help feeling that someone has been pulling the strings all along. What really caught my attention is the possibility that Britt may never have been receiving any real treatment in the first place. When Joe Fitzpatrick discovered that the syringe from Britt's room contained nothing more than saline solution, it completely changed how I viewed everything that happened over the past few years. Looking back, it suddenly feels as if Britt was trapped in a carefully designed scheme. Ross Cullum and Jen Sidwell managed to keep her under control by offering hope, and sometimes hope can be more powerful than any drug. The thing that fascinates me most is how Lucas seems to be getting closer to the truth. Even though Joe never directly mentioned Britt while discussing the saline solution, I have a feeling Lucas is smart enough to connect the dots. He knows Britt. He understands her history, her fears, and the emotional burden she has carried. If anyone is capable of uncovering what really happened, it might be him. What makes this storyline even more intriguing is Britt's recent health scares. We have seen her hands trembling. We watched her collapse while trying to escape with Rocco Falconeri. Under normal circumstances, most of us would immediately assume Huntington's disease was progressing. That is exactly what Britt herself has likely believed for years. But now I find myself asking a completely different question. What if those symptoms were never caused by Huntington's at all? That possibility opens the door to countless theories. Maybe Britt has been suffering from an entirely different condition. Maybe the stress, fear, and manipulation she endured created symptoms that mimicked something much worse. Or perhaps someone deliberately caused those health issues to convince her that she needed to remain dependent on the people controlling her. As we say here in America, something just doesn't pass the smell test anymore. The more I look at the evidence, the more I believe Britt is heading toward one of the biggest shocks of her life. Imagine discovering that the disease which shaped every major decision you've made wasn't what you thought it was. Imagine realizing that years of fear, sacrifice, and desperation were built on a lie. That kind of revelation would shake anyone to their core, and I think Britt is only beginning to uncover how deep this deception really goes. For me, this story is no longer about a medical diagnosis. It's about manipulation, trust, and the devastating consequences of believing the wrong people. If Lucas eventually confirms that Britt does not have Huntington's disease, the fallout could be enormous. Suddenly, every choice made by Cullum and Sidwell will come under scrutiny, and Britt may finally understand just how badly she has been used. When I look at Britt's story right now, I honestly feel like we are watching a woman stand at the crossroads of two completely different lives. For years, she believed Huntington's disease was her future. That diagnosis shaped almost every important decision she made. It affected the way she saw herself, the way she connected with other people, and the way she imagined the years ahead. Because of that, I don't think what Lucas is about to reveal will simply be another medical update. I think it will be the kind of news that changes a person's entire identity. The thing that strikes me most is how much fear has controlled Britt's life. Every time she faced a difficult choice, Huntington's disease was always there in the background. It was like a shadow following her wherever she went. She believed her health would eventually decline, and because of that belief, she often acted as if she had less time than everyone else. Looking back now, it is heartbreaking to think that she may have spent years preparing for a future that was never actually coming. That is why Lucas's role in this storyline feels so important to me. If he is the one who delivers the new test results and explains what really happened, then he will be handing Britt something far more valuable than medical information. He will be handing her hope. I can only imagine the shock she will feel sitting there, listening as someone tells her that the disease she feared most may not be part of her life after all. Of course, I don't believe relief will be Britt's first reaction. If anything, I think anger will hit her before anything else. The more she learns about what Ross Cullum and Jen Sidwell did, the more betrayed she is going to feel. These men knew exactly what frightened her. They knew she was desperate for a treatment that could slow or stop her symptoms. Instead of helping her, they used that fear to keep her under control. What makes the situation even worse is the revelation that the so-called treatment may have been nothing more than saline solution. Just think about that for a moment. Britt spent all this time believing she was receiving something valuable, something that might save her future. Meanwhile, the people controlling her were simply maintaining an illusion. To me, that is one of the cruelest forms of manipulation imaginable. As the truth starts coming out, I think Britt will begin looking back at her life differently. She may start questioning decisions she made years ago. She may wonder whether she pushed certain people away unnecessarily. She may think about opportunities she never pursued because she assumed she wouldn't have enough time to enjoy them. Those kinds of realizations can be painful because they force a person to revisit old regrets. However, the part of this story that truly breaks my heart is what it means for Marco Rios. I have a feeling that once Britt learns there was never a miracle Huntington's treatment, Marco will immediately come to mind. His death was already tragic, but this new information could make it even more devastating. Imagine learning that someone lost his life over a lie. Imagine discovering that all the danger, fear, and violence surrounding the stolen treatment happened because people believed something valuable was being protected. If the truth is that it was only saline solution all along, then Marco's death becomes even harder to accept. I can easily picture Britt blaming herself, even though she shouldn't. That's often how grief works. People search for reasons. They replay old events over and over in their minds. They wonder whether different choices could have changed the outcome. Britt may find herself trapped in those thoughts as she struggles to process everything she has learned. At the same time, there is another side to this story that gives me a tremendous amount of hope. For the first time in years, Britt may finally be able to imagine a future without Huntington's disease hanging over her head. That is a powerful thing. When people spend years expecting the worst, they often stop dreaming about what comes next. They focus on surviving instead of living. Britt has been surviving for a very long time. She has been carrying emotional wounds, medical fears, and the constant pressure of believing her future was slipping away. If the diagnosis turns out to be false, then suddenly she has possibilities she never allowed herself to consider. She can start thinking about tomorrow differently. She can start making plans without assuming tragedy is waiting around the corner. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Britt is perfectly healthy. Her recent symptoms are real. We have seen the tremors. We have seen her struggle physically. We have seen her collapse while trying to escape with Rocco Falconeri. Clearly something is happening with her health. Of course, this is still Port Charles, and life is never simple there. Even if Britt receives the best news of her life, she still has to deal with the fallout from Rocco Falconeri's escape. That situation is far from over, and I have a feeling it will bring new complications, new conflicts, and new surprises. The way I see it, Britt's journey is entering a completely different phase. The mystery surrounding her health may finally be solved, but the emotional consequences are only beginning. She will have to come to terms with years of deception. She will have to grieve everything she lost because of those lies. She will have to decide what kind of future she wants now that the future she feared may never happen. As I look ahead to the rest of this storyline, I keep thinking about one simple idea. Britt may have spent years believing she was running out of time. Now she could discover that time was never her enemy. The real enemy was the lie that convinced her to stop believing in herself. And if Lucas truly delivers the news that changes everything, then Britt won't just be getting a new diagnosis. She'll be getting something even more valuable, a second chance to live the life she thought was already gone.